Honestly, marrying you was the best business decision I've ever made in my life.
I would have to agree with that statement.
I'm sure you would agree with that statement. Everybody's jealous of what you got, but nobody's jealous of how you got it.
We didn't know if it was gonna work. And sometimes we've also failed at things. Your first few conversations might be, how are we gonna get out of debt?
Is your person willing to sacrifice?
Love is not necessarily enough. To have a successful marriage,
I'm just gonna say this, a man should be leading his household as a visionary.
doing life with somebody is actually sitting down, going through the hard times, having those conversations and building together. The person that you marry is the co-founder of your life.
That's good. It's not a business, but we take care of business.
Yeah. We don't believe that the perfect marriage exists.
Facts, but intentional ones do.
And over the years,
We've learned that it takes more than just love to build a life together.
this is the show where we share what's worked for us. This is
The Bailey Way. Honestly, marrying you was the best business decision I've ever made in my life.
I echo that with you.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it was hands down, I made probably the best investment marrying you, honestly. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna dive into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. This is The Bailey Way.
So tell me what you mean exactly when you say that marriage is a business decision, or you feel like you made a good business decision when you married me.
So you know what's funny, like initially when we got married, obviously we were really young. We were 22 years old. I wasn't thinking of marriage as a business decision, right?
Yeah.
But when I look back over my life and I think about how we got married at such a critical age, we were 22. And the return on that investment up until this point at 31, I can wholeheartedly say that marriage was a business decision because when you think about it, my life has gotten better. Obviously, both of our lives have gotten better, right? But I think making the choice to marry you, my life has gotten significantly better financially, as far as health, as far as just making good life decisions, right? Like I remember when I first got into the Air Force and I was living on base, how you literally called up to the car dealership, secured a car for me, had them drop the car off at the base for me to drive, you know, while I was there. That's stuff that I didn't even have to think about. You were just taking care of that stuff for me. So I feel like marriage in every sense was the best business decision I've ever made in my life, for sure.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It definitely, I feel like marriage echoes business. So there's so many parallels because you're right. Like the person you choose to marry, you're investing in that person. They're investing in you. You're playing the long game. You're not just, of course, it's an emotional decision and that's what initially starts the relationship, and that has to be there. But that's not going to carry the marriage strategically. And I think that when you're thinking of future, thinking of kids, legacy, and the life that you want to build, you're literally choosing like a co-founder of your life. Just like you're choosing a co-founder to start a business with, the person that you marry is the co-founder of your life.
That's good.
And it has to be somebody that's going to have the same values as you. Are we going to be able to go through tough seasons together in marriage, just like you would in a business? Are we going to get our ROI on our investments that we do together? Everything that goes into the marriage, you have to be aligned with that person, similar to how you would in a business.
So, let me ask you this then. So we were so young, obviously, when I proposed to you. We were 21 at that time.
Yeah.
Looking back, do you feel like you were strategic in making that decision to say yes? Obviously, we were in love. We were on the phone for 24 hours of a day, glued at the hip. We could not be separated. But when you look back on that moment, was it just led by pure emotion, or did you identify things in me that you knew would carry a good life moving forward? Like, were there?
I think that at the time, I didn't see it as a strategic or like, I wasn't looking at it as like a business decision. I think we very much did kind of act on our emotions, but we were both very intentional about certain aspects of each other, knowing what we wanted out of life. So for example, I knew that, okay, I want to be able to travel. I know that maybe not right now, but eventually we're going to be able to have a life together where we can do all of the things that we want. So I think we both saw the potential in each other. And by making that decision to get married, by me making the decision to even move to the States and all of those things, were risks, but also investments in a future that I knew we could have together. So at the time, I think we were both too young to be able to articulate and say like, okay, I'm investing in our future. I'm investing in this person because of the potential that I see. But it definitely played a factor.
I'll say this. I think for me, looking back, I was definitely thinking strategically though.
Yeah?
Yeah, because
You've always been a very strategic, long-term thinker though.
I was thinking strategically. And the reason I say that is because I remember when I was in such a down position in my life and you came in kind of at a point where things were really rough for me. I was around like 18 or 19. And I remember when I had decided to, make the decision to go into the Air Force, I had talked to a guy at LA Fitness, you know the story about that, and then your dad. And then when I made the decision, I remember being nervous to tell you, and I was nervous to tell your family that, you know what, I am going to join the Air Force, because I knew, you grew up around the military and you knew what that came with, but I didn't know how you would take it. I didn't know how you would feel about it. And I remember when I told you, not only were you fully supportive, but you were like ready to follow me wherever I went, and to me, that let me know that you were a team player. And then obviously at that time, you were like pretty much close to finishing your bachelor's degree. Like I knew that you can go somewhere and kill in whatever position you were going to get in. So I was already thinking in the sense of, if she's willing to follow me here and she has her education, she is raised by a good family, like this is somebody that I want to be with. There were some things that went into my thought process. Obviously, like we were in love with one another, but I was thinking like, wow, this won't be kind of like a friction thing. The other thing too is like, I was thinking about what life would look like in the States. And so I'm like, hopefully she's willing to come down to the States from Canada and you were willing to do that. So just thinking in terms of like this person being a team player, even at 21 years old, that is a business decision, because how many times we choose to be in a relationship with somebody because they're attractive, because they have sex appeal, because, the intimacy is great, but you're not thinking about how well they communicate, if they're willing to give, you know what I mean? Could
you actually build with this person?
Yeah.
A lot of times people who are dating, I think, act on that initial emotion.
Right.
They say like, okay, I like this person, you may even fall in love with them, but we've talked about this in one of our live meetings on Instagram, that love is not necessarily enough. And to have a successful marriage, to have the life that you want with somebody, you need someone that has the other elements of, to your point, can you communicate? Is this someone I can build with? Is this someone who's going to be a team player? Because the reality is, you go through seasons where you're really in love with this person, and in other seasons, they may be getting on your nerves.
Yeah, you might be distant.
And even like people go through phases too, in terms of attraction too. So you can't build a relationship off of those things because they're fleeting.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that for us, we knew that we were aligned in pretty much every area. Not every area, but we were aligned in the majority of areas. And I think that that's a business decision when it comes to choosing a partner, because imagine not being aligned on your faith. Imagine not being aligned on your values. Imagine, we get to a point and you drop a bomb on me, like, I do not want kids, but I want kids, right? In terms of money, the expectations there where I'm like, hey, I want to retire you. And you're like, no, I want to work and I want to have my own. I want to be independent. Or I want separate bank accounts where I want joint bank accounts. Like those conversations for us that were happening was business decisions that went into us getting together. And I think that's why marriage is a business decision. And so we talk about the ROI. Let's get into what that has done for us. What me marrying you, I'll speak from my perspective, has done for my life. One, we built our first house when we were 24 years old, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the process of building a house and getting all that stuff squared away. Literally, I remember when, we had decided that we were going to build the house, or, buy a home, because we were renting at the time. And then we realized, well, we could buy a home and our mortgage would be cheaper than the rent. And so we were like, okay, cool, let's buy a home. But I remember you went and did all the research. You were in contact with the realtor. You were talking to the loan officer. You were doing all that stuff. All I had to do was say, yeah, I like that one. That looks good. And it fits the budget. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's huge because you drove a lot of the administrative stuff, right? And so boom, that was one aspect. Bought our first home, turned around 2 years later, sold that home for $100,000 than what we bought it for.
Yeah.
Because we both aligned on making the decision. You did the administrative work. We got the house built, sold that home for $100,000 more than what we bought it for. Now we got a foundational savings account.
Yeah.
Turn around, bought another home.
Yeah.
Right? Now that home, built another home, right?
Yeah.
Now we're in this house and it is already 200 over what we bought it for, sitting on equity. You know what I'm saying? Our education, we pushed each other. We both have our master's degrees. We both have, I think 6 college degrees between the both of us.
Yeah.
Our businesses.
Yep.
Bailey Digital Marketing, the planning playbook, right? So many things happen as a result of us being on the same page and being aligned, not just leaning on attraction, not just leaning on, you know what I mean? And
I think being willing to build with each other too. Like we were both always very ambitious people.
Yeah.
But one thing that we really aligned on, and I think was another aspect of it just being a good business decision, is we're both doers. Like when we want something, it's never a matter of like if, it's a matter of when.
Facts.
And we're very much like whatever it takes, no matter how long, no matter how much work we need to put in, we're going to have the life that we want. And I think that's the kind of person that you want to go into life with, that you want to go into business with.
1,000.
And the other thing that I will say when it comes to you and I is we also balance each other out. So where we're aligned on the foundational things, we both have very different strengths that allow us to be able to create the life that we want. And we have our very distinct and specific roles. Like you were talking about how I love doing the administrative stuff. I don't want to touch the money. I don't want to touch it. I will spend it, but I don't want to budget. I don't want to know. Like that is all you. And that has been such a huge benefit for me because that's your strength. That's what you're good at. So you lead us in that way when it comes to the home and administrative things, So I think similar to a business, you have your strengths, you have your partner in life, and you both do what you're good at to move the marriage and the family forward.
No, absolutely. And I think that is something that needs to be considered when you're choosing a partner.
Totally.
You think about how decisions are going to be made. You think about what that looks like. So speaking of choosing a partner, if you had to do it all over again, obviously we got married when we were 22 years old, but we have friends who are single right now in their 30s, some in their 40s, some in their late 20s who are looking for partners to do life with. Yeah. And so strategically thinking, understanding that this thing is, and we didn't even talk about how marriage is a legally binding contract. You know what I'm saying?
Literally a contract.
Yeah, you're attached through insurance and real estate and all these different things, health, right? Taxes. But if you were to choose a partner right now, how would you choose? What would you be looking for in a partner? And how do you choose a good partner?
Well, I think that at this age, and this is what I tell so many of my single friends, is you can't get so caught up on the attraction piece and the things that just exterior look good, that are, like I said earlier, that are fleeting. Like, of course you want to be attracted to the person, but I think that especially as you get older, the things that actually matter are whether or not this person can actually build the life that you want with you. And I think another thing too is a lot of people go into relationships being like, well, I'm really good at this, so I want my partner to be really good at this too. When in reality, I think, and we've talked about this before, like this interdependence where you have to really be able to look at yourself and say, okay, I'm strong in this area, but I'm weak in this one. So I really want to find somebody who balances me out. He doesn't have to be good at X, Y, Z if I'm good at it, but where could this person come in and really help me and, call me higher? We can really depend on each other. So I think that, the things that when you're younger are a big deal, like he has to be this tall and he has to look a certain way and, all of those things. I think as you get older and more mature, matter less. And you're really looking for somebody that you can build with. And I think that can actually create attraction versus that initial attraction when you see somebody out, but then you get to know them and you realize
Yeah.
That's where it ends.
Yeah, because that attraction after you get to know somebody could go left real quick. Beautiful person can turn ugly real fast. But yeah, no, you're right. I think on that note, like I think about how when you're choosing a partner, one thing you need to focus on is the values that they add. You know, when I was, this is crazy to say, but when I was 16, did I ever tell you this? When I was 15 or 16, I was dating this girl and her parents,
I know what you're about to say.
yeah, her parents told her, they were like, because they saw that we like actually liked each other and we were dating or whatever, and she really liked me and stuff. And so she was telling her parents about me. Her parents told her, I don't want you to take anything further with him because he grew up in a broken home. He grew up in a single parent home, right? He didn't have a father in the home, and you know, he was raised by his mom. So there may be some issues with that. She didn't get to the point where we got to know each other and she could understand what I could actually bring to the table. Her parents basically dictated what that was going to look like, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, looking back, that could have turned into something. I'm glad it didn't because I have you.
Thank God.
Right? But the point being is that, and I get it, right? Like I can kind of understand, like now being older, when we have children, we obviously going to be protective of our children. But I think the point that I'm making here is I think that it is important that you get to know a person for yourself and identify the values in that person. Your parents shouldn't dictate it. Your friends shouldn't dictate it. Outside influences shouldn't dictate it. You should be looking for the values, the alignment, the attraction in all different areas in that person. And if it makes sense, then you move forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think one thing that goes into choosing the right partner is blocking out outside noise and making sure that you're taking auditive what this person brings to the table. And if y'all align on those things, then drive it forward. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know what it can become or what it can turn into.
I think it really needs to be a balance of like your head and your heart. You can't lead too much with either, or I think you end up disappointed in the end. I think, of course, you may fall in love with people, but we've talked about before, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right person for you, and vice versa. There has to be more. And it's so funny, like, I don't know if your guys do this, but girls, I know that the ladies have their lists, okay? They have their lists of things that they want in a man. And sometimes those lists get a little too long and sometimes they can be unrealistic. But I do think that there should be some non-negotiables, not necessarily physically, but like, what do you want in his character? What do you want in terms of like his goals and his ambitions? You know, like, what are those things? A lot of those lists have things on there like he has to be at least 6'3". He has to be, which is, those things are great. But what about the things that are more internal about the guy?
Yeah, look, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because I do understand that like there should be some leniency when it comes to physical attributes, right? I do think there should be. However, I'm thinking about me. I know personally for me that I wouldn't necessarily want to marry someone who is taller than me. As a 6'2" man, right?
Right.
And so when women have a non-negotiable of a man who is at least taller than them or
at least taller than them is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I think
cool.
at least taller than them is fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think physical attributes matter to a certain extent, I will say.
I think that, and maybe for a man, they matter more.
For sure.
I think because men are just more visual kind of creatures. For a woman, I would say for my single friends, like, what about, I think somebody that is going to be loyal to you, that's going to take care of you, that's going to kind of give you the life that you want, and not just financially, but that will actually be a good husband. To me, and maybe I'm only saying this because I've been out of the dating game for so long that I don't know how it works, but I would say at this age, that I would be attracted to somebody who could do those things.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a man, we could get his style right. You know, we can help him have a little glow up.
Build him up a little bit.
We can build him up a little bit. But
you can't build up the valuable things.
You can't build up the valuable things and the things that have longevity and truly matter, you know, when you're 60, 70 years old, you know.
No, for sure. So I think, for individuals who are married, they've been married for a short time, long time, whatever the case may be. What are some things that you think that they can do in their marriage that maximizes the marriage strategically, right? So when we talk about marriage is a business decision, there are obviously some intentional things that you should be doing in your marriage to make sure that you are reaching your goals long-term or short-term. So what do you think about that? Obviously, we do a lot in that realm, but what do you think about
we
that?
actually get a lot of backlash online because people say that we treat our marriage like a business. I think they think we don't have like intimate moments of just like.
It's not that, and I said this before, it's not that we treat our marriage like a business, it's that we handle business in our marriage.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Exactly. And I think I don't think that is why we have the life that we have now. And I think that the business aspect doesn't stop when you make the decision. It's like, okay, I know I've chosen the right person. Now, how do we build together? Right. And obviously the one we're most known for, and we will do it every year until we run out of goals, is our annual strategy meeting where we literally go into like a boardroom kind of style place and we write down our goals for the year and we create plans to actually make that happen. And I think that while on the outside, it does look maybe a little bit corporate because people aren't used to seeing that between a couple. I actually think that that is like one of the most beautiful and intimate things that you can do in a relationship because it's showing a level of commitment to each other. And it's allowing each other to get what you want out of life and show that you're willing to work together and have that alignment.
Yeah.
And then throughout the year, like it brings you closer to have goals together. Like it's not just what do I want to do this year and what do you want to do this year?
Yeah.
And we kind of go our own ways. It's like, okay, you may want to achieve something in your professional life. How am I going to support you? How am I going to help you do that?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
No, 1,000% I agree. And I think that, and I call it prevention before intervention.
Yeah.
Right? Like we sit down and we have conversations about every aspect of our lives, from finances to personal goals, professional goals, business goals, travel. And we literally go into the weeds and talk through each one of those things.
Yeah.
And what it does is, to your point, it not only puts us on the same page, but it lets us know what we want to accomplish individually and collectively.
Yeah.
And now we can figure out how we can support those things and actually make them happen, which in turn prevents disagreements. It prevents arguments. It prevents resentment, which I feel like is one of the greatest reasons why a lot of people end up being distant from each other. Why a lot of couples are distant from each other, or why things slowly begin to fall off and unfortunately leads to divorce because of, things that have built up over the years that were never discussed. You're not on the same page. You're not communicating properly. And so by us having those conversations, it is handling business, but it's also bringing us really close to one another. And I think that's the reason why we've been able to accomplish some of the things that we've been able to accomplish, because we're talking about it before it even happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we're able to too. And we've had, some meetings or like going into the year where it's been like, hey, I really want to travel this year. And you're like, okay, well, I really want to save money this year.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of conversations that, to your point, if you don't have those conversations and I go into the year thinking I want to travel and you're thinking you want to save and we're just having like flyby conversations about it, both of us are going to build up resentment towards one another because you're going to feel like I'm not being responsible with the money.
Right.
And I'm going to feel like I want to do all these things and you're holding me back.
Yeah.
When all it takes is truly just sitting down and becoming aligned and knowing what each other wants. And sometimes that takes compromise. We don't save as much as you would probably like to. We don't travel as much as I would probably like to. But both of us are happy and both of us feel like, we're able to get what we want.
Well, and we find a way to make it work. You know what I'm saying? I think initially we both were trying to explain to each other why we really wanted to do this thing.
Yeah.
You come from a lifestyle where your parents took you all over the world all the time, right? I come from a lifestyle where I would come home sometimes and the lights would be off, or we were getting eviction notices. And so the way we were brought up has a major impact on what we want to do and how we want to do things in our marriage. And so by us talking about those goals, we were able to identify that and say, okay, neither one of us are wrong for what we want to do and how we want to conduct our finances. Let's just find a way to do both, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the compromise ends up being, all right, cool. We won't go this place this year. We'll save that for next year, or we'll push that off towards the end of the year once we reach this savings goal, right? And that's the reward at the end. But if we never have those conversations, then something as small as wanting to travel somewhere or wanting to save something can turn into resentment to where we're now bickering over the dishes or something being left on the ground, or, you know, how you're driving or whatever. And you think it's because of those actual things, when in reality, it's because your partner feels like they're being held back by you.
Yeah.
Because you're not having those conversations.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, because we get a lot of questions, whether on our videos or I get them in my DMs. It'll be either a woman or a man who sees us planning together. They see us doing this together, and they're so frustrated because they're like, my partner would never do this with me. They would never sit down and, you know, have this kind of meeting or talk through these things. Does that mean that they're with the wrong person?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it means you're with the wrong person. I think, and I say this all the time, everybody's jealous of what you got, but nobody's jealous of how you got it. And planning and sitting down and doing these things is not very sexy. That's just like going to the gym every single morning at 5 a.m. for 6 months straight. It's not very sexy, but the result is very sexy, and everybody wants the result.
Yeah.
But nobody wants what it takes to get to the result.
Yeah.
And so I think what needs to happen, one, is we need to learn how to ask the right questions, because sometimes you got to play chess. Sometimes those conversations don't have to look like sitting at a board and writing things down or pulling out a laptop. Sometimes it's like, babe, let's sit down and talk about something. I just want to ask you a few questions. And it can just spark the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be, oh, my partner doesn't want to sit down and plan with me, so you know what? I just give up. You don't have to give up. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's really just healthy communication.
That level of structure is not for everybody. And I want people, obviously that's the way that we do it. That works for us. We're both Virgos. I remember when we posted that video, everyone was like, which one of y'all are Virgos? And we were just laughing because we were like, both of us are Virgos.
Yeah.
But I think for people listening who kind of see that meeting, they're like, oh my God, he would never do that with me, or she would never do that. That kind of structure is not for everybody. So just because somebody won't necessarily go to that extent with you doesn't mean that you can't still have very clear communication and alignment with just, you know, having more casual conversations.
Yeah, I get questions in my comments all the time asking, how do we even start the conversation?
Yeah.
How do we get that going? Which actually prompted me to put together a financial conversation guide and also a relationship conversation guide, because you'll be surprised at just having the right questions, what that can bring out of somebody. Just asking them, okay, hey, what income level would you like to reach this year or next year? How much money would you like to save? What was your finances like as a child? You'll be surprised. Some people don't have those conversations in their relationship. Yeah. Those questions are important because now you have insight into why your partner is the way they are, right? And then now you can create a healthy dialogue around money.
Yep.
At that point, it starts getting more comfortable. Now you can talk about things. You brought something to me the other day where you were like, hey, why don't we try this with the Amex? You know what I'm saying? That way we can get points from that. And I have these things that I want to do. And it wasn't weird. It wasn't like, I'm sure you didn't feel anxious coming to talk to me about that.
Yeah, I was like, and I feel like we have a level of trust that I was like, I'm going to give him this idea, but also if he doesn't feel like it makes sense, then I'm good with that too.
Right.
But I think another thing that I want to bring up too is that I think what does differentiate whether or not the person is for you is whether or not they are willing to build with you, period. Yeah. The structure may not be for them, but you do have to make sure that you're in a relationship with somebody that does want to move forward and is committed to building a life with you. The first few meetings, like first couple years, it wasn't really fun because we were not in like the living phase. We were in the building phase. Yeah. So your first few conversations might be, how are we going to get out of debt? Yeah. I want to travel, but we can't talk about travel right now until we handle all of these credit card bills and all of these, you know, things. So go through that and put yourself in a position with your partner so that you can actually have meetings about, the things that you want to do in life.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think, I love that you just said, basically, not everybody starts at the same level.
Yeah.
We all start at different levels, and you have to start strategizing and working towards, where you want to get based on where you are. I want to talk about the growth mindset real quick, because you just hit on that. You do have to have somebody who is very forward thinking and a visionary, especially, and I'm just going to say this, a man should be leading his household as a visionary.
Yep.
Thinking about what life is going to look like in the future. And those conversations should definitely be had, I would say, at least monthly, with your partner. Like, what are y'all building towards? Even if right now you're both working 9 to 5s, you got the kids, you're trying to figure life out, you can still start talking about what's life going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years, and start building towards that. There was a point where I was, working as the E3, at Davis Monthan Air Force Base, and you were working your corporate job. We were both just working our 9 to 5s. We would see each other in the morning, wouldn't see each other again till the nighttime, and then we were just doing that all the time. But we were still thinking about the times where we would be able to travel. We would have our businesses going. We were talking about what money would look like in the future. Those conversations were being had.
And I think we always knew, okay, we're not where we want to be right now. The Air Force wasn't your dream, but we were like, this is what it's going to take to get us to where we want to be.
That sacrifice. Going back to choosing the right person. Is your person willing to sacrifice? Are they willing to do something different? I'm also grateful that you were willing to start a business with me. You know what I'm saying? Getting our business going, because, it made sense. We talked about it. You were working in marketing. Yeah. And I had worked with my goddad's web and graphic design company. Okay, cool. Why don't we start a marketing business? We don't know what's going to happen.
Let's fake it till we make it. But the reality of that situation too is that sometimes those things come out of hard times. I was working in a corporate job. I loved it. At the time, I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, and then they relocated my job. And you were in the military, and there's no way I could have moved, even though I would have loved to career-wise. Yep. And I just remember us being like, we never want to be in this position again, where now I have to find a new job, and I loved this job. And so what's the solution for that? Building something of our own. Yeah. But we both agreed, and we both were committed to building that together. We didn't know if it was going to work. And sometimes, we've also failed at things too. It's not easy to get clients. You lose clients, but then you gained 3 more because you learned, from your mistakes. So I think that's the key, is just having somebody that's willing to do life with you. And life is not traveling the world and the highlight reels. Doing life with somebody is actually sitting down, going through the hard times, having those conversations, and building together.
Getting it out the mud. It's that's really what it is. And so is marriage a business decision? Yes, 100%. It affects everything from your health to your money, to your taxes, to your insurance. We literally just got life insurance. Yeah. Because we realized I retired you last year. If something were to happen to me today, I don't want you to have to, deal with the emotional weight of that on top of trying to figure out what your lifestyle is going to look like. Exactly. Yeah. And so again, the fact that I'm willing to think about those things, and you're also willing to do it as well, that went into, thank God we chose the right partner. Yep. Somebody who's willing to invest into something that may never happen, but if it does, we're good. Yeah. We're squared away. Yep. And so thank you for being my business partner and love partner.
My co-founder.
My co-founder, absolutely. So it's not a business, but we take care of business. Yeah. 1,000%. Y'all let us know what y'all think in the comments about this episode, and we want to hear from y'all.